occasionally in horse racing, you will see a horse that looks like it's wearing a face mask, only common sense tells you it's not for decoration. And the face mask are kind of circular cups that sit around the eyes of the horse so that it can't see left or right without turning its head. The mask and the cups are called blinkers, and they're designed to help the horse focus solely on what's in front. As human beings, I think there are times when we are blinkered, when we are so focused on what's in front of us or what's behind us that we can't see what's around us. In fact, sometimes we're so focused on ourselves that we can't see other people. Do you think that's something that you struggle with as a Christian? Now, Monday, we began looking at the parable of the unforgiving servant, and we thought about times in our life when we've asked for forgiveness, and times when others have asked us to forgive them. Well, today, following on from telling Peter that he is to forgive 70 times 7 times, Jesus now tells the parable. Matthew 18:23. For this reason, the kingdom of heaven can be compared to a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. When he began to settle accounts, one who owed 10,000 talents was brought before him. Since he did not have the money to pay it back, his master commanded that he, his wife, his children, and everything he had be sold to pay the debt. At this, the servant fell face down before him and said, "Be patient with me, and I will pay you everything." Then the master of the servant had compassion, released him, and forgave him the loan. Now that's a nice story of compassion and commitment. Okay, the person who owed money was committed to paying it back, even though it would take some time. And perhaps because of that, or because the king was simply a compassionate king, he released the man and forgave his debt. But the parable doesn't end there. Jesus continues, Matthew 18, verse 28. That servant went out and found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. He grabbed him, started choking him, and said, "Pay what you owe." At this, his fellow servant fell down and began begging him, "Be patient with me and I will pay you back." But he wasn't willing. Instead, he went and threw him into prison until he could pay what was owed. Now, I imagine at this point in the parable that Peter and the disciples are thinking, that doesn't seem right. Okay, the first servant is within his rights to demand that he be paid what he is owed, but having been released of his own debt, you would think that that servant would also show compassion. Jesus continues, Matthew 18:31. When the other servants saw what had taken place, they were deeply distressed and went and reported to their master everything that had happened. Then, after he had summoned him, his master said to him, "You wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you begged me. Shouldn't you also have mercy on your fellow servant as I had mercy on you?" And because he was angry, his master handed him over to the jailers to be tortured until he could pay everything that was owed. Now, like me, my guess is that you hear that parable and feel a sense of justice. Okay, the first servant is shown the same judgment that he too showed. Now, I'll unpack this on Friday, but for today, I simply want you to consider why you think the first servant, who was released from debt, didn't release the other servant from debt. Okay, and then ask yourself, are you guilty of that sin? And then pray for a couple of minutes.